have a very special program planned for all of you today, and we are excited that you are here. Just a friendly reminder that the reason we do these programs is because we want to connect with each other. If you have any technical difficulties, our friend Shelby's here to help. But what is more important is that this is a time to exchange insights and build relationships. Hopefully, you're gonna live with a friend today and make plans to collaborate and work with each other and support each other. So, today, chat storm, let's get our fingers warmed up. And we have a special question for you. We're going to be talking about funds, right? Sometimes in our meetings, we need some money to buy food or to have paper products. So, how do you fund expenses for your support group? Let us know in the chat, bottom of your screen, the little chat square. You can click on that and you will be able to type your response. And I am trying to see my chat here today to see what everyone is sharing with us. So, we don't fundraise. So if you don't fundraise, how do you cover some costs maybe that you have in your support group? Because maybe you want to print some copies to share some handouts. Or you want to make flyers for your support group and take them to the libraries or community centers. How do you cover those expenses? So I love that one already, a cookie jar. That's a good one. That is a good one. Even if it's $1 or 25 cents, you can make copies with that. So we don't fundraise, or Lauren is sharing grants from local PD organizations. That is wonderful. That's what collaborations are for. We collaborate with the local PD organizations. BJ shared that some from our nonprofit, the Mission for Movement in Baton Rouge. A grant, Perry, I love your answer. A cookie jar. That is actually my favorite because it works. It's easy. And someone is going to be in charge. Who's going to be helping you manage that cookie jar, right? And we have some online groups, so we don't have any expenses, and that is okay as well. And PMD Alliance covers the Zoom license. For the ones that don't know and have a support group, PMD Alliance can help you with that too. And then we don't fundraise. Sometimes the APDA chapter will cover some minimal costs. That is great. Another reminder, collaborations. Who are we collaborating with? Member donations. I don't fundraise either. Donations, small grants, fundraising. There you go. I pay for everything. Okay, I use vendor funds. There you go. How do you get those vendor funds? And some from nonprofits. So that is wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so Dave is sharing that. He doesn't fundraise. And one of the facilities, they offer flavored water and cookies. The local rep pays for printed materials and out-of-pocket expenses. That is amazing. Our local pharmaceutical reps are always willing to help, and they have access to printers. So good tip, Dave. Thank you for that. And we use free spaces. That is important too. A lot of free spaces, libraries, community centers, churches, so we don't have to pay to use a room, and they usually charge per hour. If you're a nonprofit, that's an easier way to get a free room, a free meeting room. So thank you, everyone, for sharing that information with us. Now we're going to move on to a quick poll. And Shelby is going to help us with a poll. You're going to see the screen come up, and we're asking you to let us know if you have considered growing your group to a more structured organization, because a lot of us start as an informal group. We just get together, But then do we want to be a little bit more formal? A name, a logo, a website? That's usually gonna mean we're gonna be incurring on some expenses. Do we have that poll going, Shelby? Because I don't see it on my screen. I don't know if everyone else is able to see that poll. No, I don't see it.
Nope, I don't see it.
Okay, we'll figure out how to get it up and run. Oops, sorry. I was messing up with my screen. Don't let me do that. There you go. Now I see it. Yay. All right, so we just have to say yes or no. Look at that. We're going there. Half and half. Yes and no. Yes and no. Have you considered growing your group to a more structured organization? So far, who doesn't love a competition? We have 54% for yes. I want to be more structured. If that is the case, you're in the right meeting. There you go. I think everyone has responded. What? This is amazing. Half and half, everyone. We have a friendly tie. That is great. Thank you for that. Thank you for letting us know. And for half of you who are interested in becoming a more structured organization, we're going to share some tips and tricks today on how to do that. So thank you, Shelby, for helping us with that poll. And now we're going to move forward to today's topic. So today's topic is starting a 501c3. And to talk about that, we have a very special guest speaker today, very dear to our heart. She is the founder of PMD Alliance, and that is Sarah Jones, who's also the co-founder of a new nonprofit. And I know I'm going to misspell the name, so I'm going to leave it to Sarah to let us know about her new organization. But Sarah has spent more than 25 years leading nonprofits and healthcare programs, designing initiatives and training providers across local, national, and international settings. She holds dual master's degrees, an MS in strategic design management from Parsons School of Design at the New School, and an MPA in healthcare from a leading institution. Sarah was diagnosed with a rare disease, EGPA, and her life and work now is focused on advancing rare disease advocacy. As co-founder of the, Sarah, you're going to have to help me with the pronunciation. I practiced, but it's not coming.
Eosinophilic.
Thank you. It's not coming out yet. Eosinophilic.
Yeah.
and Rare Disease Cooperative. She channels both her professional expertise and personal experience to drive systemic change in rare disease care, funding, and policy. And we also have a second guest speaker. Some of you may know he's quite involved in the community, and Bobby Krause. He is a PMD Alliance Ambassador and the founder of the Bestill Foundation in Pennsylvania. Originally a college athlete, Bobby was a former sales executive, and he's a father of two very tall boys. He thrived, embracing life to the fullest. However, everything changed when a nervous tic began plaguing his left arm. He had numerous doctor visits and scans and appointments until he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 2016 at the age of 42. So they are our two very special speakers, and I am going to let Sarah take it away and get us started with today's topic. Welcome, Sarah, and we are so thrilled to have you here.
I am so honored. It's so fun to be with all of you and see so many wonderful faces. So thank you. I'm excited to talk about this topic because I had one perspective when I was at PMD Alliance, and I have a different perspective now based on my experience of living with a disease. So, I guess the first thing I wanted to start off with is if you're thinking about doing any kind of structure, or even if you're not, but now this has maybe piqued your interest, I would say the number one thing is to know your purpose before you do a single thing. Um, why are you even considering this? Really be very clear about your purpose before you start getting into it. And if you're going to do it, think about what's going to happen down the road to the organization. Um, and really planning that from the get-go. I saw somebody say they didn't do a 501(c)(3) because they didn't want their wife to have to wind it down. And I think that is insightful. And kudos to you for thinking, ahead on that because it's a big deal. When I talk about this, there's two different experiences of founding nonprofits, which, by the way, having run nonprofits before PMD Alliance, I vowed never to do. I vowed never to start a nonprofit because I felt like there were so many of them and they didn't partner well. And so why would I add another one? And we started PMD Alliance because there was a real gap in services, which PMD Alliance and Andrea, hello, you guys are just doing an amazing job, just meeting a need that in a way that is unique, and I think that's really key. When we started PMD Alliance, we intended for that organization, your organization, to live forever. We intended for it not to be a founders organization. We intended it for it to be, stand on its own 2 feet and be an organization that lived in perpetuity forever. And that is a very different way to start and then run an organization. Whereas the current, and it also allows for a lot of growth because if you're going to have an organization that's going to be there for a long time, it has to grow, develop, and continue to become something, which is a whole different level of energy for those of us living with limited spoons, assuming you all know the spoon theory. Um, Eosinophilic and Rare Disease Cooperative, ERDC, is a very different organization. It is beyond baby. It is me and my wife. And it was started with a very specific purpose of you have a rare disease, you show up at the emergency room or your doctor or healthcare provider, and they have no idea what your disease is. Nor really should they, because like my disease is 2 in a million people. To expect a doctor to actually understand it, it's not going to happen. So if I don't show up with materials that help a doctor know how to treat me and read my labs and all of that stuff, I'm not going to get good care. And so it started out of that. And my wife is a medical social worker, and we have stayed intentionally small because this isn't going to grow into some big organization. I also wouldn't want it to, and I don't have the energy for that. And I can't use my energy for that because I need my energy to, empty the dishwasher and do the daily things that we all know takes energy, now that we're kind of living with diseases. However, I do have to plan with this still. We had to plan, okay, when we go away, we've started to create a system where people are depending on us for on some level. Who's going to take this over and who are we going to give our resources and our programs to? Okay, let's go to the next one. So I think that's really important. If you're thinking about this, is this for your support group? And then how does that live beyond you? And if it's not, or does it? And if it's something that you want to be bigger, that's a very different thing. There's a lot of pros and cons to starting something like a 501(c)(3). And I didn't even include in here the cost because that's a one-time cost. The assuming that you're gonna, not look at raising high dollar amounts. If you do, that's a different kind of cost. But there's some potential benefits and potential challenges. I would say that it probably the biggest potential benefit is that if you want to grow it into something larger, you can, access fundraising, you can access grant eligibility. But do keep in mind, if you're fundraising across state lines, you do have to register in all of these states, and that is a whole thing in and of itself. You can't just fundraise, you can't receive donations from out of state. You can't actively fundraise from out of state and not be registered in that state. So there's a lot to it. The thing that I will say is that it does provide some purpose and direction. And this is one of the pieces that I don't think I understood until getting sick. Especially for many of you who looks, I know many of you and diagnosed younger, when you still have some energy and you're not retirement age and you want to contribute and add value to the world, but you also can't do what you used to do. And so it gets hard to figure out, how do I continue to have agency and how do I continue to have presence in the world? And I think that that can lead, a 501(c)(3) can help with that. However, I think there's other ways to still achieve that. I think some of the challenges that we don't talk about enough are things like the financial and administrative challenges. There are legal requirements if you are for a 501(c)(3). There is, if you are relying on donations for costs, especially if it's people who are working for you, that's a level of stress that I think there's no words for, because you are now responsible for someone else as well. And we all know that stress makes our diseases worse. So I think those are some consequences that we don't talk about enough. Um, the stress, you don't know them until they hit. But there is stress in running a formal nonprofit. All of this is going to be in a handout too. So I'm going to, keep moving through it. Go ahead, Clemmy, to the next one. If you're really thinking about starting a 501(c)(3), I would recommend you do some homework first. And if this looks like a lot of homework, then I would definitely recommend not doing a 501(c)(3), because this is nothing compared to navigating a 501(c)(3). So first I would say, make sure no one else is doing what you want to do. Really make sure of that. I'm a big fan of don't duplicate what's already out there. I mean, it's just not worth the energy. And when we are living with diseases, we have a limited, finite amount of energy. And so be careful with that. And so I would say, is anybody else doing it? And if so, why do you still feel you need to do it? I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just asking why. Be very clear about why. And is there a way to collaborate or volunteer with the group that is already doing it? And some of you had those examples in your chat. So first, I'd say that is probably key right there. And for a lot of you, you'll find there might be an opportunity that would allow you to collaborate versus having to start your own. Learn about nonprofits. Great book, Nonprofit Life Cycles, Stage-Based Wisdom for Nonprofit Capacity. Great book. If you're really thinking of starting a nonprofit, this book should be underneath your pillow, because it is going to talk to you about the different stages of nonprofits. Again, whether you're making a small little one like our ERDC or our little rare disease one, or whether you're doing a large one like PMD Alliance, this book has a lot of nuggets that talk about potential pitfalls and structure that needs to be in place, because even a small nonprofit needs structure, which I know that Bobby's going to talk about. And then I would say, if you do move forward with a nonprofit or any kind of structured organization, really watch for growth and mission creep. And I say watch for growth because things will come at you. You talked about reps, and they're fantastic. They're great for providing, foods and drinks and great stuff like that, which is fantastic. Use them for that. But they'll want to throw some money at you. And when you start getting money, there's things that come with that. And growth adds stress. So it looks so great and it's so exciting when someone wants to fund an organization and there's stress in it because there's a lot of requirements and there's a lot of not just relational responsibilities, but actually performance responsibilities that come with funding. So just kind of watch that growth piece and watch mission creep. So you might be a group that supports um, well, I'll just talk about ours. So we're supporting like education related to how do you get your doctor when you show up at the doctor, how do you get them to understand your rare disease? We don't do disease state information. We don't do information about what does your disease have? What is your disease like? What does it disease state? We don't do that. So if somebody came to us and said, would you do a live stream series on, EGPA, which is my disease. Can you do a live stream series on that and what that disease is? That would be mission creep because that is not what we do. There are other organizations that do a terrific job with that. No, our answer should be and would be no, we don't do that. But here, if you go here, they do that. So mission creep is really important because that can also add stress and get and completely make you overwhelmed quickly. And I think I have one more. So I just want to throw out there that there's another way to make this make your group more structured without going as far as a 501c3 and without the cost of a 501c3. And that is, you can obtain an EIN, an employer identification number. It's free. It's very simple to do on the IRS website. It allows you then to open a bank account using the
Hmm.
EIN. Um, the only real difference, well, no, there's a lot of differences. You can't obviously do major fundraising and that kind of thing. However, you can still get donations. They're just not tax deductible. So if you're running a support group and somebody's giving you $10 a week or $5 a week, they're probably not needing to write that off on their taxes. They're probably not going to get any money back from that anyway. And so you could get an EIN for free. You can open a bank account. You can have a couple people in your support group manage that. So it's not just you, but you have a treasurer and you kind of oversee that. You report back to the group about the money. Perry's idea of a cookie jar, great idea. If you don't have a lot of money coming in, do a cookie jar. Really okay. If you have a lot of money coming in because maybe your rent for where you go is really high, you might want to go down this road, but you don't have to go as far as a nonprofit. A nonprofit is really if you want to grow, you want programs, you want grants, you want to be able to have people have tax deductible donations like Bobby's nonprofit, which is a high dollar funder of support for people. That's a very different thing than a lot of the kind of local providers. So this will all again be in a little handout that Clemmy can provide you, but um, I think that's all I got. Hopefully that was a little bit helpful. And I think I'm turning it over to Mr. Bobby.
Excellent. Well, tough shoes to follow there, Sarah. Thanks for making my job difficult here this morning. But appreciate the advice. I think that's tremendous. We're gonna have a lot of reiteration of some points because again, I went through the same process and appreciate the direction that you came from and the way that you presented. So, a couple things here for me today. One is again, if you do have more detailed questions, I'm going to be kind of taking you through some uh, points of starting a 501c3 at a very 30,000 foot level. So again, we're not going to really dig into any weeds. But if you have any direct questions, I'm more than willing and happy to speak to anybody, anytime, anywhere. So just contact Clemmy. She has all my contact information. I am an ambassador as well, so you'll see me popping up on various support group meetings that we have. But for those that don't know my story, just real quick, as Clemmy mentioned, I was diagnosed at the age of 42 with young-onset Parkinson's. And for me, like many of you, the medication was actually worse than the disease itself initially. I
Mm.
spiraled into a very deep depression for roughly 6 years. And
Oh,
as
wow.
mentioned, I had two sons, and I was put on this earth to be a father, to be a husband, and it took me out of what I was here on this earth to do. So the catalyst for me was coming around the corner on my son's 14th birthday and listening to him apologize to his friends a bit about the way Daddy was acting. Daddy had Parkinson's, and Daddy's on some strong medication. So actually went inside, flushed all my medications, called my doctor right away and just said, hey, there's got to be something else to deal with for me at the time, tremors was my worst symptom. So there's got to be something different to do than to take carbidopa and ropinirole, etc. They alerted me of a new procedure called Focused Ultrasound, which I was super excited about. Went to have it, and then found out my insurance coverage did not provide that umbrella for me, and I was responsible for $40,000 out of pocket.
Oh my God.
Didn't have that money at the time, but somehow, some way, anonymous donor foot the bill for me. I still to this day, don't know who that person was, but that person truly changed my life. And thus we formed the foundation to pay it forward and to replicate what that generous person did for me and my family. So with all that said, this is again, kind of a highlight of my journey at a very high level. But for me, it's kind of a first things first. And if you look in that bottom right-hand corner, that's not to pat myself on the back, but it's simply to show you, just like many of you are, we're all local cheerleaders, right? And that's where my journey started, was getting into the rock steady boxings, getting in front of different medical professionals in the space, but really wanting to share my journey so that others knew that there is hope out there. There are other options. There are solutions beyond just medication. So for me, again, I asked the same question that Sarah mentioned is, was there truly a need for the foundation and my aspirations? Again, I think we all have the greatest of intentions, but really being able to separate ourselves out from our aspirations and what's reality. So for me, I saw just like Sarah, and that's crazy, Sarah. I never heard of 2 out of 1 million people have that. That's insane. Not quite to that level, but only 3% of the people who would qualify for the procedure I had either know about it or are aware of it. So out of the 11.2 million with Parkinson's and essential tremor, only 3% know about that feature. So it's not quite to Sarah's level, but again, it's one that there was a need for it. There was nobody else in this space that was providing financial or emotional support. So again, we kind of went to the next step then by putting together a business plan. And again, this is something, as Sarah mentioned, this isn't for the faint-hearted. So again, this is something, if you're going to go this route of the 501(c)(3), strap on your boots. It's going to cost money and it's going to take time and energy. I think the biggest point that Sarah made is, and we all recognize, stress obviously makes our tremors worse. It makes our conditions worse. So if you're not in a position or wanting to give up that time that you have during the day to I can't believe I'm saying this, but to do the dishes, to vacuum the floor, to go grocery shopping, to throw the football with your son, whatever it may be, maybe this isn't for you. Because again, these things can be great, but at the end of the day, they can be problematic for our lifestyles that we need to be very close and monitoring and watching. So once you kind of go through that need and the plan, then you have to look at the things like, is the name of the foundation available? Is the URL available? Again, there's as you're taking this next step, we're going from more from a local level to more of a regional, maybe more of a national, or in some cases even a global level. So things like your website are going to be important. Trademarks are going to be extremely important. And then lastly, the question I had to ask, was I and my family fully committed to this? Because again, it's not just me. When you start out, you don't have the money and the funding to have an admin, to have somebody working on fundraising. I wear a lot of hats. My wife wears a lot of hats. My kids, unfortunately, or fortunately, wear a lot of hats. So they're at various events, asking for donations. They're at various events, taking out trash at the end of fundraising events. I mean, we do everything and anything. So make sure that you know that your caregivers, your network is going to be tasked to help out significantly. And if all those things come together, we go to the next page, Clemmy. Once you're at that point, then again, then now the real work starts. So as you look and you'll see those things that are underlined. I kind of gave two options in the direction that I went, and I'll explain a little bit why. But so for me, as I went through the incorporation process, did I want to use a local lawyer who specialized or LegalZoom? For me, I was comfortable using LegalZoom. It was very intuitive. It was a little bit more cost efficient and effective. But there were a lot of things where I actually had to use somebody from my feature board and say, hey, you know, help me with this as I set this up. Is this the right? Am I an incorporation? Am I, what am I? So again, there's a lot of questions that need to be had. So if you're more comfortable seeking somebody in this space, please do that. As far as the trademark goes, and again, this was very important for me. This was something I was not comfortable with online tools. So when you're working with the USPTO, I got a little nervous, a little gun shy, knowing that I had bigger aspirations for the foundation. I wanted to make sure that I was protected so that I wasn't infringing on somebody else's foundation and the work that they had put into place. So it's not just, is it available? Is it something that's going to take away or distract from somebody else and their mission at hand? Was I going to use GoDaddy or a local digital media resource? And for me, I actually use both. So again, I
Mm.
found different ways where I set up my own Facebook page. Now I don't manage my page. I have a group that does that. But I was able to, GoDaddy's quite simple and just typing in, is the URL available that you want to use? Bestill.foundation, yes. And then you just pay for it right there. It's pretty fairly simple and easy to manage. But the local digital media resource is one that I strongly recommend. Again, if you're looking to grow beyond just a local support group and looking in this space, these people really help you understand the locations of where your audience wants to be met. So, as an example, I have yet to do a TikTok video. I don't think anybody on this call uses TikTok other than maybe some sheer entertainment, but the reality is Facebook is huge. Instagram, not so much. So again, you kind of need to know where you need to be at, where to spend the time and energy. Because initially I thought, oh yeah, we're going to do TikTok, we're going to do Instagram, we're going to do all these videos, and it's going to go viral. And then found out very quickly that my audience on Facebook was growing at over 100 times faster than my Instagram and my TikTok audience was. So know your audience. And then lastly, and Sarah had a great point earlier about the, again, if the 501(c)(3) is not for you, the EIN is a great option and solution to go. Again, there's some advantages, but there's also some disadvantages. But if you know what they are, they could all be advantages for whichever direction you choose to go. But was I going to use a TurboTax or a tax professional? I can't emphasize this one enough. Use a tax professional, especially if you go the 501(c)(3) route. There's so many things that need to happen, especially based on the tiers of the fundraising that you do, from 0 to 100K. You can do an internal audit with a small local firm. Once you get over 100K, you have to have a specialized audit. And again, I came from the corporate world. I thought I was well versed, but this was a whole different animal. So again, aligning yourself with the people and the experts in this space that do this day in and day out. And there in the bottom right, you can see that's my digital resource team. So everything from a photographer to a videographer, a content manager, et cetera. So again, we all work very collectively to make sure that the tone of our foundation is communicated, that they understand what we're trying to accomplish, our narrative. And again, they've kind of bought in hook, line, and sinker. They're at all of our events. They've now become very well versed in all things Parkinson's and essential tremor related, to the point now where, again, they feel like they're part of my family and they're part of the foundation's family. Next slide, Clemmy. And then once all that's done, now it's time to make a difference. So again, this is just some different things we've been able to do with the foundation. Everything from speaking at universities like Princeton. We've done Capitol Hill multiple occasions. We work with celebrities in the bottom left-hand corner to bring attention and awareness to that's Apollo Ono of some people recognize him as an Olympic skater and some people recognize him as Dancing with the Stars, but either way, he's an incredible gentleman that's helped the foundation quite a bit. But we do support groups, we speak at lunch and learns, we do corporate fairs. But having all of this structure pulled together provides that legitimacy, allows us to market and communicate, and again, I would say have a little bit more stage presence than just coming in as a volunteer per se. So, and then in the center there is one that was a highlight for me this past year. This was kind of a full circle moment. So, for those that are aware of Insightec, they're the manufacturers of the MRI machine. So they're the ones that performed my procedure back on June 9th of 2022, and they brought me back to speak at their global conference to share my journey and story of how I got to from where I was at to being now 4 years and still tremor free. So that was a pretty cool full circle moment for me and the foundation to be able to be there and share our story. But other than that, it's been a whirlwind. There's times where, again, knowing the limitations and struggles I have, the 501(c)(3) actually works well for me because I can pick and choose my hours. But at the end of the day, I still have a lot of hours that I have to focus on this. I still have yet to hire the first person. Quite honestly, and I probably shouldn't communicate this, but I'm going to, but I've yet to pay myself in the first 2 years of the foundation. That's intentional. I want to put every dollar I possibly can into the cause that I have at hand. At some point, do I want to pay myself? Yes. I have kids in college and kids going to college and certainly need to do that, but there was more important goals that we had up front. But appreciate all the support that I've received from the PMD Alliance. Clemmy and Andrea have been fantastic, and Shelby, looking forward to working for you and with you as we advocate for patients that are looking for hope and healing and ultimately triumph over tremor. So thank you for the time today. Like I said, if you have any additional questions, uh, check with Clemmy. She'll give you my contact information. I'd be more than happy to set up a Zoom call and we could talk in further detail.
Thank you so much, Bobby and Sarah, for that incredible presentation. And if you have any questions, please, you can either make your question in the chat or you can raise your hand or, like Zoom now, your hand just goes up. You can do that too to ask your question. And oh, thank you, Andrea, for the great comment. Yes, I agree. Great speakers today. We love having speakers to hear different points of view. And Tracy, she's on TikTok. Okay, so wonderful that some of you are on TikTok. So, you know the format of our roundtables. We want to have time to connect with each other. And while we get ready to set up those rooms, we're going to have Bobby answer a question from Andrea, which is forming his board. Oh, a board of directors, and how much work was that? Bobby, that is a very good point. I think Bobby froze and got dropped. Oh no, I'm sorry.
I know
You
he needs
scared the
to leave.
internet with that question.
I know he needed to leave. Do you want me to pipe in with a
Yes,
few
please.
comments on that? Okay, and if he unmutes, then he can take over. But you do have to have a board of directors for a 501(c)(3). It is required. It is, the size of the board is not necessarily mandated by the IRS, although I think it requires 2 or 3 people. Although your state, you have to be registered with your state as well as an organization. So it's not just with a federal, you have to have a local, be registered as an organization, and that has its own requirements. Boards of directors, usually when you're starting out, they tend to be friends or people that you know who are very close to you, which is okay. And again, in that nonprofit life cycles book, it'll talk about that. But there's also pros and cons to that. But it doesn't matter how big your board is and who your board is. Boards require care and feeding. They require that because it's people volunteering their time to be with you, and so they need information. So they are, they may not be an employee, but they are another group that you have to take care of. And as you grow, in a startup, you're going to be using your board to do some of your activities. So like Bobby said, he has no employees. We don't either. We're not wanting to grow into a bunch of employees. And um, yep, there went my brain challenges right out of my head. But and I know you guys, it's good talking with you because I know you can relate. Um, but as you grow, thinking about who your board members should be, that is also a challenge, but it's a thing. For an EIN, it's not required. For an EIN, you can have whoever you have. And Bobby looks like he's coming back, but he probably has other insights.
Mhm. That is wonderful insight. Thank you, Sarah.
Oh,
And
so I mean, did I
hi,
miss some?
Bobby. Welcome.
I think we skipped a slide, and it was the most important slide.
We did? I didn't skip.
Oh, I skipped.
Okay, so yeah, there is a question about board of directors, Bobby. What can you
Yeah.
add about
So I
that?
think it's really important to find people who are complementary to the cause. So again, I think I heard Sarah on my way out of being closed out of the Zoom. A lot of times it's friends and family. Yeah, that's true. A lot of people that I've called on in the past. But again, Clemmy, are you able to pull up the screen and show the board slide?
Yeah, I am looking for it.
So again, I was pretty.
Where did my screen go? There you go.
We were pretty strategic in the way that we set up the board, and I'll show you from what perspective.
Oh, all my boxes checked. You are correct. I don't know how we skipped that slide, Bobby.
I'll take the blame though, Clemmy.
There you go. You see it?
Excellent. There we go. Yeah, so there you can just see the couple of quick questions that I have when it comes to identifying the board, because again, this is uber critical. So without help, and again, I know some other PMD Alliance members, ambassadors have tried to go this route. They've really struggled with getting board support. Um, so again, do you have people in your network willing and able to join the board? Do these members offer expertise in skilled area and value? And do these members have time to commit to the cause? Those are really important questions. Once they check the boxes for there, you can see a small screenshot of my board below. So I have everybody from a VP of a wealth management company, which obviously presents me to an audience for a large donor base. I have military that helps me with the VA. I have CPAs. We have VPs of marketing. We have global CEOs. So again, we have people that bring a wide variety of expertise to this space that help me grow all aspects of the foundation. But most importantly, they are lots of suits and ties. You're exactly right. Got really fortunate with that audience. But really, the question has to be: those pictures are great, but what are those people actually doing for the foundation? That's what's most important. So again, find people who are committed to supporting you. Know that it's going to take some time and investment. We get together on a monthly basis. But other than that, we've been very blessed to have an incredible board that's very active. In progress. Excellent.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Bobby. Glad we were able to find the slide and remind everyone it's not only having the names, but having the commitment. Thank you for that. And then we have another question from Lauren. So Lauren, can you please unmute yourself? Thank you.
Sure. Sarah and Bobby, I was wondering what your thoughts are on using a fiscal sponsor, because that was something I did as an intern step before we went 501c3. That way we could apply for grants and take donations and things like that. It was helpful for us.
I don't know if Bobby's here. Oh, he is here. Do you want to go, Bobby?
I'm trying to make sure. There we are.
Here you are.
We're back. So yeah, so we actually have a couple of large corporate sponsors that help us pay the day-to-day bills so that we can focus on what we need to do. And then we support that also then obviously through fundraising campaigns and peer-to-peer donations. So, but I think Sarah mentioned it earlier. Those big dollar checks are nice, but they often have shoestrings attached to them, where again it's not. Again, they often tend to be philanthropic in the best of intentions, but also know there is going to become some things that are going to be required of you to pay back per se those investments in that sponsorship. So
yeah, and I think yeah, for sure. And I think fiscal sponsorships they're definitely helpful in terms of getting the structure you need to get the support that you need. I do agree with that. A lot of people do use them as an interim piece. There are organizations that only do fiscal sponsorship. And so like literally you can go with an organization that only does fiscal sponsorship. They will take a percentage of your revenue to cover, because really the fiscal sponsorship, for those of you that don't know, it's basically the back end. It's the administrative, right? So you're using their 501(c)(3), and they're managing basically all of the finances of that and all of the kind of nonprofit legal liability stuff. I would still say the challenge with it is you really actually then technically are a program of that organization. And so the alignment is still really, really important. And if you go back to, if you're wanting to grow and develop an organization to do something with that organization, it can be a really helpful stepping stone. We had one at PMD Alliance for, I don't know, 6 months while we waited um, for our 501(c)(3) because it takes a minute to get that. And so we had one because we had a grant that was going to be available to us. And so it was like, didn't want to miss the timing. So we had that at PMD Alliance. If you're not wanting to grow into something where you're providing services, then you can simply do like the EIN concept. But and I don't know what organizations are currently doing fiscal sponsorships in. That's the other piece. If they're a for-profit doing fiscal sponsorships, well, I guess they'd have to be a nonprofit. But I don't know. We looked into some of those, and I just watch to make sure that they have the integrity that you want because you are aligned with them.
Yeah, I think if you have a good relationship with them,
Yes.
but I was with
Yeah.
one that not a huge Parkinson's organization, but they were a 501(c)(3). We got everything in writing. That way I ended up getting a Parkinson's Foundation grant because I was under their umbrella. So it worked out really well.
Yeah, exactly. So if you have a good relationship and you know them, I think that's especially if you want to grow into actually providing, services, and or like programs. It was really helpful for PMD Alliance. It got us, I think, our first $2,000, which was huge,
Huge.
really, really huge at the time, Yeah, but there's still work.
Well, thank you so much. Wonderful questions. So much to know and learn. And we are going to share with each other when we go to breakout rooms. So since we took a little bit extra time to answer questions, our breakout room time is going to be a little bit shorter than what we usually do. So we apologize for that. So now Shelby is going to be so kind to send us into breakout rooms so that we can talk about what are we doing? How are we energizing our group, to give back to the community? Are you staying at the cookie jar level or are you planning to grow into a 501(c)(3) and do more educational programs or create resources for the community? So what are you doing? So go ahead, Shelby, and we can send everyone to breakout rooms. Please designate a note taker so that they can do the share back when we come back to the room at 1:20 p.m. Eastern Time. And that is going to be, let me see if I can do math, in about 17 minutes. Thank you. And we'll see you in 17 minutes, everyone. Have fun talking to your friends and building some collaboration agreements there. And we can stop recording, Shelby. Oh, pause. I can do that. There you go. Recording back. Hopefully you had fun making some friends in your breakout rooms. And we're going to take a few minutes to learn from you because you are the experts. You're doing the work and we all learn from each other. So let's look at group 1. Do you have a designated reporter?
Greg, did you want to talk or me or Sarah?
Sure. Oh, we can all talk.
All right.
Basically, what we talked about was it's important to think globally, think big picture. What are you trying to do? But then you have to narrow down your focus and resource regionally. Who wants to help you? Don't do something just to do something. Do something that matters. And BJ, I think you had a great, your yearly
Yeah, so
thoughts.
Greg's yearly focus was laser focus. We all give ourselves that one thing. Mine is have a result. Don't just show up to show up. If I'm not going to have an effect, I'm not just going to fill a chair. I'm wasting time and effort. And make sure the mission creep doesn't happen, as we heard before. And just make sure that whatever you do has a result.
Yeah.
Don't just do things to do things.
And like BJ said, if you think globally, resource regionally, and then act locally, you got to do something. I personally don't get involved in 501c3s because I know my wife will be so tired of hearing about Parkinson's when I finally die that she's going to throw a party. But I don't want her to have to unravel all this crap that I did just because I suck at retirement.
And what's really cool is that Sarah's in the process of relocating to Colorado Springs permanently. And she was able to get information from Greg about a support group there. So,
Yeah. We
uh,
contact.
and my cousin has a store in
Mhm.
Colorado Springs. So I did a little marketing. So,
Yes. I
um,
think we covered everything.
yeah. So that's it. That's what we talked about, man.
Wonderful.
Yep.
That was a dynamite group.
Yeah.
Beautiful. How about group number 2? Andy, Corey, Pat, Perry. Who wants to talk about your group?
I feel guilty sometimes because I'm in an area that's ripe with opportunity and activities. I know my favorite thing is to be a volunteer guinea pig at all the professional therapy schools, Midwestern, everything in the book. There's one coming up shortly. But I'd love to be a guinea pig. And you learn, they learn, everyone gets together and has a great time with it. And we all inform each other what's going on, where the volunteer opportunities are, anything that's available that you can't ever have too much information. And I've never gone to any one of these things and not come away with something new. And that's what's exciting.
Beautiful. Thank you, Perry. Anyone else wants to add?
I learned a whole lot today from the talks and from the group.
Well,
Yeah.
welcome, Andy. We're excited you're here.
Yeah, it's very
Yes.
exciting.
My
Thank
group is
you.
undecided. My support group is undecided about whether to pursue the 501c3. So it was helpful to hear from the other members of my breakout group how their group handles that right now.
Thank you. I'm not sure who suggested the topic, but we did this topic because one of you asked for it. So I'm glad that you're benefiting from all these knowledge from our experts. So thank you. Let's see group number 3. Lauren and Karen. Ooh, interesting
Two
group.
of us till Sarah popped in. We had a good conversation about what's going on in California. We talked a lot about filling your board and who to get to fill your board. And one thing I mentioned was be careful about filling your board with too many people with Parkinson's. And I'm hoping people aren't going when I say that, but we certainly don't want to discriminate. We want maybe an advisory board or some people on the board with Parkinson's because we need their opinions and they're out in the community and telling us what they need. But I can say for myself, it's 2 years as president of the board and it's stressful and it's a lot of work. And I can't wait to have someone to take that place.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. Very, very insightful information, Lauren. Thank you so much for that.
Hey,
Anything
Connie,
to
I
add,
would just
Karen?
add
Oh,
to
go
that.
ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, I would just say to that piece, I'm so glad you brought that up, Lauren, because it really is a really, we talk, I mean, we talk about that with our little tiny ERDC, and because people with the disease, we've got issues. I mean, it's why many of us aren't working. So I think if you don't do a 501(c)(3), you can have a group, like if you did the EIN, you can have a group of people with the disease and our care partners a little more easily because you don't have all of those legal requirements and all of the structure stuff that you have to have with a 501(c)(3).
I had mentioned too the importance, if you want your group to continue, the importance how important it is to realize that no one is irreplaceable, that all of us need to be bringing people along to take over for us. And this has happened recently as we have a new president, while the old president is still part of the board, able to help her. We have a new treasurer, while the previous treasurer is still on the board. I'm even looking ahead to the time when it might become difficult or to continue what I do, which is to set up work with the group to set up the programs for the monthly meetings. We don't want our groups to fail and we don't want to burn out. So even if it's giving somebody in your group a little something to do, and then they become more and more involved, more and more compassionate about being a part, those are the people that you look to serve on committees or on a board and things like that. We want to continue to be successful in the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Karen. And let's see, how about Laura, Randy, and Tracy?
Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
this is Tracy. Sorry, I'm not on camera. Maybe I'll try to come on camera. We were driving.
Go ahead, Tracy.
Okay, yeah, and Randy's in a hospital. Hi, I'm really new to the group. This is only my second time. So Randy, do you mind if I just recap kind of what we talked about really
No,
quick?
go ahead. Go ahead.
So a couple things. One is just through networking. Randy and I just recently met each other, and she has got some information that I'm looking for somebody to start a group. The friend is in a very small community. She has to drive 25 to 30 miles for stuff. And Randy knows how to do this. So I'm going to connect the two of them together so that Randy can help this woman set something up in her town. And the other thing I was telling Randy is that Washington, D.C. is coming up in 2 weeks, and I had an opportunity to talk to a gentleman from Michael J. Fox on Friday. I was at my state capitol Friday. This man was there advocating with us. And we got into a conversation, and he told me the most interesting thing, and that is, in addition to people telling their stories, right? What he told me was that within the foundation, what they find is that there's so many people in the Parkinson's community who don't know enough about the community to be able to tell their story or to know that they need to tell their story. I hope that makes sense. I see a couple heads shaking. And I hope that means that you're saying, yes, we understand that. We see that struggle as well within our groups, right? Where people just don't know enough to do that. And I thought that was super interesting that he would say that. And so a friend and I'm the one who chimed on and said, I'm on TikTok. So I have a friend who does Parkinson's Q&A every Tuesday night on TikTok. And his co-host is not available tomorrow. So he and I are going to do it. And we're going to bring on a couple other people who are going to DC, and we're going to talk about telling our story. And we're going to tell people how to tell their stories, take their questions, do Q&A, try to offer that educational piece of advocating for themselves, because it's not just, there's so much advocating that needs to be done in front of their doctor, in front of their friends, in front of their lawmakers, et cetera, et cetera. So that in a nutshell is what we talked about.
Beautiful. Thank you, Tracy, for being here. It is so nice to meet you and hear from you. Thank you for all the advocacy you're doing.
Sure. And really quick, if anybody's on TikTok or you got people who are on TikTok, I can put my information in the chat. Let me know if you would like to join in on this live tomorrow, this TikTok, and it may live tomorrow, and we will get you guys included.
That's wonderful. Yes, please, Tracy, can you go ahead and add your information to the chat so people have access to that? Thank you. Randy, seems like you have something to add. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that neither Tracy or I really need the 501c3, so that's why we didn't really talk about it.
No, and that is wonderful. You know, it's just a prompt to discuss, but those collaborations that are happening in those breakout rooms, that is what matters the most. I don't know, was Laura able to connect with you?
No,
No?
she did
Okay.
not.
Yeah, so we believe her audio is not really working. That's why she was not able to connect. So thank you everyone for sharing with us, for teaching us, and for giving some advice on how to run our groups. You know, we're all in different communities. What works for one community may not work for another one. So we do the best that we can with the resources we have available. So that's why these support group roundtables exist, so that we can get ideas from what everyone else is doing in their communities. So we thank you very much. Hopefully you are planning to do something special with your group for Parkinson's Awareness Month next month. And the first Monday of April, we will have another support group leader roundtable to talk about how are we raising awareness about Parkinson's in our community. So hopefully you can join us. We appreciate you. Thank you so much, Sarah, for being here. It was an honor to have you back with us, to have you as a guest, to learn from you. And thank you, everyone. And we will see you next month.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.